This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the best all-in-one platform for all of your website building needs. Hey guys, it's Celestia, and you're not allowed to make art as a hobby. If you're not making money off of it, you're just wasting your time. At least that's what society says, and it's saying it louder and louder every day as hustle culture continues to infect every corner of it and ingrain its mentality deeper and deeper. I've already made a video on how massively and overwhelmingly hustle culture negatively impacts professional artists who make art for a living, but it's gone so far that it doesn't end there anymore. Maybe it never did, and I just didn't see how it impacted hobbyists too because I'm not one anymore and didn't experience it firsthand. But after spending a while talking with a few different friends who do make art as a hobby in one form or another, it's become abundantly clear that hustle culture is doing just as much damage whether you're even making art for work or not. And that's because, as depressing as it is to say, for the most part, hobbies are dead. We've adopted a culture that prioritizes work and productivity above all else, and that's come with the overwhelming pressure to make sure absolutely all of our time is as effectively utilized as possible, including the time that we used to allow ourselves to spend doing what we love. Now, if we want to do what we love, we have to justify spending time on it by making it productive. We have to monetize our hobbies if we actually want to engage with them without being shamed or made to feel guilty or lazy or unambitious. And with that mentality gradually came the widely accepted belief that art, like any other hobby, isn't worth making if it isn't done for profit. Nothing is. What started out as encouragement that if people worked hard, they could achieve their dreams and improve their lives, has now transformed into the encouragement of a work-first, person-second mentality, in which we should work hard all the time for work's own sake. And that's deeply, viscerally upsetting, because it's robbed so many of us of our love for life. If we can't even have hobbies that we do purely for our own enjoyment of them, what's the point of working so hard all the time? What are we working and even living for, if not to simply work more? The hustle culture mentality, at the end of the day, doesn't help us, not in this extreme and corrupted form. The only people it benefits are the ones at the top, who couldn't be happier to have a society of worker drones obsessed with productivity that are willingly addicted to work, because their success at that work is now inherently tied to their identities and self-esteem. They can't feel good about themselves if they aren't. And I don't want to see the death of the hobby, especially not when it's art. The idea that such a healing, fulfilling, personal act of creation is being so corrupted by capitalism that it no longer has worth unless it's profitable is sincerely heartbreaking, because introducing money into the equation is, for so many people, the wrong move. Art maintains its sanctity to many artists because it's just a hobby, because it allows them complete creative freedom and gives them an escape from the pressures of work and everyday life. Pressure to monetize that hobby turns it into just another work pressure to feel the need to escape from. Only now they have no way to escape, because their reprieve has turned into just another cage. They're getting off the treadmill only to step directly onto an exercise bike. So I want to talk about it. I want to talk about why the idea that art as a hobby is no longer valuable is so incredibly upsetting to me, how much damage is being done by pressuring hobbyists to monetize their work, and why it's so overwhelmingly important that we stop the death of the hobby while we still can, and take back the freedom to do what we love just because we love it. I do realize, however, that this is coming across like I'm discouraging people from pursuing art professionally, and I want to clarify right off the bat that that's not my intention. For a lot of people, making art into a career is an incredibly fulfilling experience, and if you're doing it because you genuinely want to, and not because of the pressures of hustle culture, you absolutely should, and that's something I will come back to later on in this video. For those of you who do want to go down that road though, I'd first like to take a moment to talk about an excellent resource you can use to do so. The sponsor of today's video, Squarespace. One of the most important things for any professional artist to have is a good, polished, professional-looking portfolio that displays their work accessibly and appealingly. Because no matter how excellent that work is, clients are a lot less likely to be interested in it if the site that you show it on makes it hard to access, or comes across as unprofessional, which is why I always recommend Squarespace, because it's the best website building and hosting platform that I've ever used. I built both of my portfolios there, both my previous cutesy, super branded one, and my new revamped, more professional one. Despite their many differences, Squarespace's tools and templates made both of them so easy to build that it was actually fun. But portfolios are just the beginning. Their extensive library of templates has perfect options for any kind of site you could possibly want to build, and that includes online stores. They give you everything you need to turn any site into one: the ability to manage payments and inventory, handle shipping and fulfillment, and even boost your SEO to help you get more eyes on your site, and subsequently more customers. It's amazing for selling physical goods like prints and apparel, but selling services like consultations, event management, editing, and even art commissions is just as easy with all of their tools: a streamlined workflow, built-in appointment scheduling, email marketing tools, and so much more. They also make it as easy as possible for your customers to pay, too, because they offer all of the most popular payment methods like Klarna, ACH Direct Debit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, and ClearPay, and even allow you the option to send individualized branded invoices to specific clients, so you can start accepting orders from all around the world with just a few clicks. So whether you're an artist in need of a portfolio, an entrepreneur building an online store, a creator setting up an interactive blog, or a small business owner making a landing page, Squarespace is the place to do it. And you can find out yourself by going to squarespace.com to get your own free trial today. And once you've built the perfect site that you're ready to launch, you can get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain by going to squarespace.com/Duchess linked in the description. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video, and please go check them out. But let's get back to the issue at hand. Hobbyists have it rough. In another recent video, I talked about how they already face constant pressure to improve at art, even if they're just doing it for fun and don't want to, solely because quote-unquote bad art faces so much relentless mockery and hate online that they don't want to be the next victims of. Even if it is just a hobby, it's one that you have to be good at least if you don't want to drown in comments calling you trash because you had the audacity to post such a monstrosity of an art piece online. But with hustle culture's infectious mentality spreading further and further, now they're being pressured from every angle to monetize it too, because that's the only way they can justify having it as a hobby at all. You don't have to make it your job, but you definitely have to make it your side hustle, because everyone obviously needs at least one side hustle in order to be considered successful these days. Which sounds ridiculous, but according to a 2019 Fortune article, 49% of Americans under the age of 35 have one. So the pressure to make every moment of your day profitable is obviously having a very effective impact. And that's not even surprising, because like I've already said, hustle culture hasn't just impacted our work ethic. It hasn't just pushed us to work harder and work more. For many, it's wormed its way into our minds to the point that it's impacting how we see ourselves as people. It's not just pressure to spend every second of our time productively, effectively, and profitably. It's overwhelming guilt when we don't. It's the feeling that we're lazy, that we're failing, that we're falling behind, that we're wasting our time every time we do something just for ourselves. It doesn't just influence our self-esteem as employees or entrepreneurs. It influences and damages our self-esteem as human beings, because we've so thoroughly come to measure our value as human beings by our success and productivity as workers. So if we all feel so guilty about spending time unproductively that we can't bring ourselves to at all, hobbies go from something that we worked to be able to do as a reward to something that we have to justify the time expenditure to do in addition, as another form of work. The only way we can still enjoy our hobbies is to enjoy them productively, which has quickly become synonymous with profitably, despite the fact that it's not. It's productive to take care of yourself. It's productive to rest, recover your energy, engage your creativity, create stuff, and enjoy your life. You gain something from that. Time you enjoy wasting is not time wasted. But culturally these days, the only productivity we recognize is the kind that makes you money. And so, slowly but surely, all of our hobbies eventually turn into side hustles. They have to if we want to keep them. And it's so glorified as this amazing escape from the grueling 9-to-5 of a day job, where if you pursue it as a side hustle for long enough, it'll eventually turn into a job where you get to do what you love instead. In reality, more often than not, all you get is just another job in addition to your day job, and you lose a hobby that once made that day job more bearable. Because people talk about monetizing your hobby like it's just engaging with it the exact same way, but profiting from it, and that's almost completely wrong. Monetizing your hobbies changes almost everything about how you engage with them, how you see them, and what they give you and make you feel. And more often than not, it corrupts and destroys the passion that you used to have for them in the process. It's no longer something that you get to do when you're in the mood to and you feel like you'd enjoy it. It's something you have to do regularly, consistently, and whether you like it or enjoy it or not. And you have to do it in a way that you think will appeal to others rather than the way that you actually want to do it, because that's really the only way to make it profitable. It cages your creativity and drains your enjoyment of it as it becomes a work obligation, rather than a reprieve from work that once helped you relax and de-stress once you were done with it. This isn't always the case, to be clear. Some people genuinely are able to still derive the same enjoyment that they got out of it before, even after monetizing it, and sometimes even more now that the monetization has removed the hustle culture guilt over quote-unquote wasting time and provided them with more financial stability. Side hustles based out of hobbies aren't always a bad thing, and they can be genuinely fulfilling and beneficial. It mostly comes down to who you are and how significantly monetizing your hobby influences how you engage with it, because it doesn't always have to influence it so much that it takes all of the joy out of it. And I don't want to suggest otherwise, but in so many cases, it truly does corrupt those hobbies to their core, and sometimes so slowly that you don't even notice it happening until it's too late, which is especially damaging if the monetized hobby was the only hobby you had, and you don't have time to engage with any others. It's one thing if you monetize one and still have others to bring you joy. That's another thing that helps the side hustle hobby become a lot healthier and more sustainable. But if it was all you had outside of work and now it's more work, I mean, we're supposed to work so that we can afford to spend the rest of our time enjoying our lives and our hobbies. We're not supposed to work so that we can turn our hobbies into more work. Like I said before, at that point you're literally just living to work, and that is truly a miserable way to be. There's also been some evidence to suggest that monetizing your hobby actually changes the dopamine hit that you get from it. Many have reported that when they previously got that dopamine hit that made them feel good just by engaging with the hobby at all, they now only got it once they completed something profitable by doing it. Rather than enjoying knitting, they now only get that same feeling of joy when they've finished a scarf to sell. Rather than enjoying gaming, they now only enjoy finishing a Let's Play to post online. Things that once made you happy don't anymore. The only thing that does is the act of utilizing those things to achieve a goal. It doesn't help that just doing the thing can't be done without pressure now either, because you don't have to be good at a hobby. The aforementioned pressure for hobbyist artists aside, purely technically speaking, there is no minimum skill level required to enjoy it. The process can be completely carefree because the end result isn't the point of it, the process is, so it doesn't matter if the end result turns out poorly. If you're monetizing it, not only is the end result the only thing that gives your brain the happy juice, it's something that has to achieve a certain level of quality in order to be appealing to a potential customer. You can't just knit a scarf, you have to knit a good scarf. You can't just play a game, you have to play it well and be entertaining while you do. It imposes a minimum skill level required to enjoy it, and there's suddenly a pressure to make sure that you're treating all of the time you spend engaging with it like training that will improve that skill level. Not only does that make spending time on your monetized hobby more stressful, it creates a sense of guilt when engaging in hobbies that you haven't monetized too. Not just because you're not monetizing them, but because you're not good enough at them to do so. And there's this nagging voice in the back of your head that says that means you should be trying to get better. There's even more to discuss when it comes to art specifically, of all forms, not just visual, both for individual artists and art as a whole. One obvious consequence is that monetizing it as a hobby, and implying that it's only worth pursuing if you do, devalues it altogether, reducing art to nothing more than a product to be consumed, and suggesting that the practice of creative expression only has worth if it produces something sellable. That's not necessarily unique to hustle culture and the monetization of hobbies, in fairness. For as long as art has been sold, the introduction of money into the equation has always been having this effect. It's a big part of the reason art's monetary value is so frequently dependent more on the artist's fame than the quality or content of the art itself. It's viewed as a product more than an expression, and a product is worth whatever someone will pay for it, which is usually more when the person who made it is famous. But I do personally believe that hustle culture has severely exacerbated the problem, and the growing belief that art should only be made to sell is, to me, just further evidence of that. And for the individual artists, it completely erodes their creativity, because they're not free to indulge it anymore, at least not in its entirety. The time they have to make art is limited if it's a side hustle in addition to their day job, which means that when they do make it, they face pressure to tailor what they create and how they create it to suit what they think will sell well, diminishing their ability to derive any personal satisfaction or fulfillment from bringing their own ideas to life freely and for themselves. Those ideas and their own personal taste come second to consumer preference and popular trends. That doesn't necessarily mean that they don't enjoy making it as a result. I have to do this with my own work all the time, and I still enjoy making it. But it doesn't bring me the same feeling I get when I make art solely for me. And worse, it makes it impossible for me to make art solely for me at all, even when I make the time to. Lately, I've been having this recurring dream with this one beautiful scene that I always recall so vividly that I felt like I just needed to get it out and express it. So I painted it, and I did so with no intention of selling or gifting it to anyone, and with full knowledge that I wouldn't even be able to post it online because it contained artistic nudity. It was purely personal, just for me, the kind of thing I never get to make anymore, and that I've missed for a long, long time. The kind of thing that did give me that feeling that was missing doing work catered to viewers and potential clients, and it didn't. I felt so overwhelmingly guilty the entire time that I could barely enjoy the process, and so crippled by the feeling that I was neglecting my obligation to make art that I could post, sell, or otherwise use professionally, that I was drowning in anxiety rather than feeling relaxed and de-stressed and fulfilled. Like I knew that despite actively, consciously being aware of its impact, I was influenced just as much by hustle culture as everyone else. But I thought that it had its limits. I thought that I could still engage with art as a hobby independently from how I engaged with it as a job or a side hustle. I thought that if I made time to make art just for myself, the fact that I was also making art for money wouldn't be so draining. I'd still have that well of creative validation. But I felt so guilty about even visiting that well that I couldn't drink from it, even after I finished the painting. And it extends to everything. When I was in Japan as a teenager, I bought a Hello Kitty themed set of perler beads. Those little beads that you arrange into a pattern on a plastic grid and then iron so that they melt into like tangible pixel art. And I spent the whole night making all of the designs it showed. I never sold them. I never did anything with them. I just kept them as a fond memory of the time I spent making them, because that alone gave them value. But now I looked at that and thought, God, I'd sure like to do that again. It was really, really nice. But how would I make it profitable? I'll have to turn them into keychains and phone charms and sell them. So I did. And to be maybe a little too real with you, the night that I'm writing this, I was making them. The storefront I sell merch at in the city I live in is having an event this weekend, and they pushed vendors to restock in anticipation of higher traffic. But after spending 4 hours at least placing these tiny 2mm beads into formations for that restock, I bumped my table just a little bit getting up, and they all fell apart. 4 hours of work while I was already struggling to keep up with work for the channel, gone. I cried for a good 10 minutes because I couldn't make that time up. I didn't have it. And I realized while crying that I hadn't enjoyed a second I spent making them, despite the fact that I only started to in the first place to try to reclaim the joy I felt back in Japan, selling them only to justify that hobby and the time I spent on it. I realized that I wouldn't be crying if there was no pressure, because I wouldn't only value the end product. I'd look at the whole issue and think, well, shit, I guess I've got to do those again. That sucks, but I had fun making them in the first place, so remaking them will probably be just as much fun. It hit me so hard, because it applies to how I feel about art as a whole so widely and unavoidably. It's become an obligation that I didn't even notice myself failing to enjoy. It's so easy for that to happen when you monetize hobbies and art, because it doesn't happen all at once. You don't suddenly think, okay, now all of the art that I plan to make is for money. It starts slow, like, I'll print copies of this piece that I would have made anyway and sell them, and eventually that becomes, I'll make this piece because it'll sell well as a print. And it does so gradually that there's no single moment in which you can pinpoint that it's happening and stop it. The lines blur, and the consequences of that extend beyond just individual artists. They affect art as a whole. If the majority of artists, because art has become a side hustle and not a hobby, feel pressured to prioritize art that will be popular and therefore profitable rather than ideas that inspire them most, the entire landscape of art suffers as more and more work catered to consumers and trends is made, and less unique, authentic, risky, experimental, strange, out there art is made. I'm guilty of this. I contribute to it every single day. The art I really want to make is in these speed paints that I'm still showing now of that 1 month in October where I let myself draw the horror prompts that bring me joy. The art that I'm much more actively making is cute anime girls. And I love those cute anime girls too, don't get me wrong, but the reason I draw so many of them isn't just because of that love. If I had a choice, it would be a balance between the two. But I haven't done any art like the former since October of 2025, and I know I won't have time to again until October 2026 when I do the same challenge again. It won't be a balance, and if the vast majority of artists are doing exactly the same thing, which they most definitely are facing significant pressure to, the landscape of art altogether becomes vastly more homogenized because everyone is making the same thing and there's no space for anything new. There's no space for Picasso or Dali or Matisse or any artist whose work isn't conventionally appealing. There's just stagnation, with the collective perspective on what makes art beautiful never being challenged by another kind of beautiful. But that issue has always been present for professional artists. It's always been a necessary sacrifice when pursuing it as a career. It's something that comes with making it your day job. And I have a whole video about whether or not pursuing art as a job is right for you because of precisely that cost-benefit analysis. And you're gonna face pressure to pursue pretty much any hobby professionally, no matter what it is. If you're good at it, the first question or suggestion that anyone around you will make is either, why aren't you selling this? Or, you should do this for a living. There has always been immense pressure to turn everything you excel at and enjoy into a job, despite the fact that doing so often steals what you love about it away from you. But hustle culture has taken it a step further. It's saying that you shouldn't make it your career. It's saying that even if you don't make it your career, if you want to do it at all, you have to make money off of it somehow in addition to your career. It's saying it's not worth doing if you don't. It's saying you're wasting your own time if all you're doing is enjoying it, even if you have an otherwise successful and stable career. Problems like having to cater to trends and popularity never used to extend to hobbyists, at least not in the way they do now, because now even hobbyists are pressured to monetize their art to justify the time they spend making it. Hobbies, which were once sources of rest and rejuvenation and enjoyment and fulfillment, are now just underutilized potential income. All of this brings me to a weird conclusion, which is the pandemic, because for a minute there, I thought it might actually bring us back in touch with the value of hobbies for hobby's sake. We were unable to work, and with financial assistance letting us exist without needing to in order to pay bills and survive, the pressure to make money with every second of our time was so much less overwhelming. Those of us who were interested in art, and any hobby really, were suddenly allowed to spend more time making it and practicing it and falling in love with it for its own sake. But it kind of ended up being a trap, not because of us, but because of the systems that we abide by. For some, hustle culture already had its grip on them from the start, and they viewed the whole situation as an opportunity to improve their skill and subsequently monetize their artistic output, because they already viewed art as necessarily profitable if they wanted to make it. But for others, they felt obligated. Their skill at art had improved dramatically during quarantine, which then allowed them the opportunity to monetize it, something they felt pressured to pursue because of hustle culture's influence. For others still, they had simply fallen in love with making art during quarantine and understood that once it was lifted, they would have to be able to make money from it to continue to be able to spend that much of their time making it once there were bills to be paid again, giving them no choice but to turn it into something that they could support themselves with. Regardless of the individual's perspective or circumstances though, quarantine did, for many, remind us of how valuable and rewarding hobbies are for their own sake, at least at first. It was a lesson, however, like many learned from the pandemic, that we have forgotten far too soon, and that is a sincerely tragic loss. In conclusion, monetizing your art, or any hobby really, isn't a bad thing in and of itself or in all cases. It depends on you, what parts of making art bring you joy, and a lot of other factors addressed in that other video I mentioned about whether or not art as a job is right for you. It's not bad on its own. After that spontaneous perler bead breakdown, my response wasn't to push through it and keep turning something that once made me happy into something that was making me miserable. It also wasn't to give up. It was to make those keychains when I felt like doing so would make me happy and calm, and then sell them afterwards. I have other keychains that can be sold in their place, and the perler bead ones can just be bonuses whenever it makes my brain better and not worse to make them. And I'm so glad I messed up those 4 hours worth of product, because it reminded me that it was never supposed to just be a product. It's about balance. It's about doing it because you want to and adjusting your approach to your hobby side hustle relationship to make sure that you still can. And even then, that's only when monetizing a hobby is the right thing for you. You sacrifice a lot when you do, and if that means sacrificing so much that you no longer enjoy it, I personally don't think it's worth it. My issue isn't that you shouldn't monetize your hobbies if doing so works for you and you don't suffer from doing it. My issue is the growing pressure that hobbyist artists face to do so even if they do suffer from it. My issue is the belief that art is only worth making if it's to sell. It is deeply, sincerely upsetting to me that hustle culture has corrupted hobbies so much that we can only find them valuable if they're productive enough to pursue professionally, even just as side hustles. Productivity and profitability are not synonymous. A thing that brings you joy to do is worth doing solely because it brings you joy. Your happiness is valuable. You deserve to live life, not just survive it to work another day. The things you love doing, you should do them in a way that lets you keep loving them. If that means making money off of them, good, I'm glad. If it doesn't, good, I'm glad. You are what matters, not a product, not a profit, you. Hobbies are supposed to be the reward for work, the things that you come home to from it, having spent the entire day looking forward to it because you can't wait to enjoy them. They're not supposed to be more work, because then what is the point of all the work? Hobbies don't need to be made valuable financially. They are already valuable. If you don't want to make art for money, don't let anyone tell you that you have to. What you create has value because you created it, not because of its price tag. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Special thank you as always to channel members Joseph Solomon, TC Pratt, Haruki Saluzzo, Extinction Animation, Andy the Hedgehog, Kai the Memer, Jazz, Sayori, Hailstorm, Darkholder, Another Foxboy, Pale Star, and Cyber Tori, as well as patrons Batman, Kyle Lowe, Kim Yin, Crazy Asar, Gentong, MG, Blah Mage, TC Pratt, Celine Moongazer, Eldritch Chia, The Stray Dog, Decagon, Jenny Chan, Catbus, Lucy Yamajiki, Selena Beebe, Pryday, Peel, Wingtang Wong, Murray Greer, Potato, Jazz, Voidwalker, Latte Tabby, Christian Cook, Adam Suroviets, Doriaki, Varius, Hailstorm, Emo Queen Jules, Show That's It, Craig, Scarlet Flame 234, The Names Are Gone, Luwuka,